What is up? Anything new?
Did you hear the latest news?
No. What is that?
I was watching television and learned that gold is in a bubble and is going to crash soon.
And you are foolish enough to listen to such nonsense.
What do you mean?
Let me let you in on a little secret. The same people that are predicting the bubble in gold are the same people who missed the housing bubble. These idiots have no idea what they are talking about.
I do not understand. Explain.
You see, the price of gold has been up for 11 years in a row. These bubble predictors are seeing it and calling it a bubble.
But how can gold not be in a bubble if it only costs $650 per ounce to produce it while the price is $1,600 per ounce?
Let me guess. You probably learned about the $650 figure from the same knuckleheads.
Well, yeah.
You are killing me, man. You are even more clueless than the people who are telling you all this nonsense. The $650 figure you are talking about only includes the costs of taking gold out of the ground and refining it. How about all the other costs? Does it cost money to look for gold reserves in the ground?
Yes.
Does it cost money to obtain the required permits?
Yes.
Does it cost money to build a mine?
Yes.
Does it cost money to buy the equipment to dig gold out of the ground?
Yes.
Exactly. All of these things cost money. Just because they are capital expenditures and are not included in the operating expenses does not mean they do not exist. When you add up all the costs, you will learn that it really costs about $1,200 to produce 1 ounce of gold. You want to know something else?
Go on.
These costs are only going up.
Why?
Because it is getting more and more difficult to find gold. The low-hanging fruit has already been picked. The mining companies have to dig deeper and go after lower grade ore, which means that costs are going higher.
I am starting to understand it. Is there more?
Yes. If you pay attention to the big mining companies, you will learn that they are missing their production targets, which means that total production is declining. So you have production costs going up and overall production levels going down, while the demand is growing.
Did I just hear you correctly? You said the demand for gold is growing.
Yes.
But how can demand be growing when people are not buying? When I asked my neighbor if he was buying gold, he said no.
Is he an American?
Yes.
Then, this is why.
What do you mean?
Americans don't even know how to spell gold. It is the Chinese, Indians, and central banks that are buying gold. People in the Western world have not yet caught on to what is happening.
You lost me again. I do not understand. What is there to catch on to?
Oh boy. Have you been living under a rock? Smart people are buying gold because governments around the world are debasing their currencies. For example, our government in the US is printing money faster than ever before. Because they cannot print gold, it is taking more and more dollars to buy the same amount of gold.
Why are they printing money?
They are printing money because whatever they collect in taxes is not enough to cover all of their expenses. They are running huge deficits.
But I thought printing money was illegal.
Yes, but only for us. You have to understand that they do not print money the way you think of printing money. They are much more clever.
What do you mean?
They do so by buying bonds.
I am really lost now.
You see, when the US government is spending more than it is taking in, it borrows the difference by selling bonds, which are called US Treasuries. But then the Federal Reserve is one of the buyers.
Are you kidding me? You are saying that the US government is borrowing and one of lenders is the Federal Reserve.
Yes.
It is like me trying to borrow money from myself.
Exactly.
Where does the Fed get the money to buy US Treasuries?
They pull it out of thin air.
Do not be silly.
They print it, but instead of calling it printing, they call it quantitative easing.
But I am still confused about one other thing. You said that the Fed is one of the buyers of US Treasuries. Why does the Fed need to be buying US Treasuries?
To keep interest rates at record low levels. If the Fed was not buying, interest rates would go up. The demand for US Treasuries from outside investors is not enough to keep interest rates low.
You make it sound like keeping interest rates low is a big deal.
Well, yes. It is a big deal for the US government. You see, the US government is in debt by about $16 trillion. If they continue spending like crazy, it will reach $20 trillion in a few years. When interest rates go up, it will be a disaster.
Why?
Think about it for a second. If you are in debt by $20 trillion and interest rates go to 5%, it will cost the US government $1 trillion per year to service this debt.
So, what is the big deal?
The big deal is that they only collect a little more than $2 trillion in total revenues.
So this means that about half of what they are collecting will be going to pay down debt.
I did not say anything about paying down debt. This is just servicing the debt.
I see. What if interest rates go to 10%?
Well, then 10% of $20 trillion is $2 trillion per year.
Holy cow. This is almost 100% of what they are collecting. We are screwed.
Now you are starting to use your brain. I wish people in Washington could borrow some of your brain.
I understand what you are saying, but you are assuming that interest rates go up. What if they stay low?
Interest rates can stay low only if there is enough demand for US treasuries. For years and years, foreigners were lending us money, but now this is changing. This is why the Fed has to be buying. The more debt we accumulate, the more buyers of US treasuries we have to find. If demand does not keep up with our need to borrow, interest rates will go up.
But if we cannot find enough buyers of US treasuries, the Fed can buy them all. I do not see a problem.
Are you insane? I thought that you were getting smarter. When the Fed buys US treasuries, they print money to do it. Do you know what happens to the money in your wallet when they print money?
It loses value.
Exactly. This is how you create inflation. Because your money is losing value, everything costs more. If the Fed ends up buying all of the US treasuries, this will lead to hyperinflation.
So what should they do?
Let me ask you a question. What would you do if you had too much debt and interest rates were about to go up?
I would pay down my debt as quickly as possible.
Exactly. But first you would have to stop spending like a maniac.
Well, yeah.
It is no different with governments. In order to solve the problem, they would have to balance their budgets. This means they would have to spend only as much as they collect in taxes. Then, the next step would be to slowly pay down their debt.
This sounds very logical. We need to tell our government about this.
You make me laugh. You honestly think that they have not been told this? They are not interested in cutting spending.
Why not?
Because this would create too much pain. You see, right now, the US government is spending almost $4 trillion per year and only collecting about $2.5 trillion per year. They would have to cut about $1.5 trillion to balance the budget. There is no way they are going to do that.
Why not?
Because politicians only care about being elected. Imagine if I was running for office and told people that I would cut government spending by cutting their Social Security, Medicare, and defense.
No one would vote for you.
Exactly. The general public is not educated enough to understand this problem.
So what are they going to do?
Nothing. They are going to continue spending more than they are taking in. They are going to keep borrowing more and more to keep the charade going. To keep interest rates low, the Fed will keep buying US treasuries. This will create inflation and maybe even hyperinflation.
This is really scary. Is there anything that I can do to protect myself?
Yes. Number 1. Stop listening to the people who are saying that gold is in a bubble. Number 2. Start accumulating gold while your paper money still has purchasing power.
Wow, you have given me a lot of information. I wish I could share all of this with the world.